Hey guys, welcome to You the Boss podcast, episode 40. I'm your host, Pam, and today we're going to be speaking with Juliane Corona. Juliane was born and raised in Bakersfield, California. At the age of 21, she graduated from California State University, Bakersfield, with a degree in business administration and a concentration in marketing. After graduation, she worked at her mom's marketing and advertising firm. During her 6 years working there, she helped develop and implement nationally awarded marketing campaigns. In addition to that, Juliane gained experience in project coordinating, media buying, video production, print campaigns, and much more, with an emphasis in healthcare marketing. Juliane decided to take a year off, and in that year, she met her husband and they became pregnant with their first child. She knew right away that she wanted to do something with her placenta but wasn't sure what. Juliane's search for information began. She'd read article after article, research paper after research paper, until she found out about placenta encapsulation. However, she could not find anyone in the Bakersfield area that offered this amazing service. Juliane knew that she wanted to learn how to encapsulate her placenta. She also decided to offer this service to other women seeking placenta encapsulation. Juliane's training began under another placenta encapsulation specialist from Hollywood, California. After this initial training, she earned both of her certifications, Bloodborne Pathogens and OSHA's Safe Food Handling. She then completed Placenta Benefits' training program, also known as Placenta University. Mommy Made Encapsulation is nationally contracted with UPS Healthcare and has made placenta encapsulation available to expecting mommies all throughout the United States. Since her placenta journey began, Juliane and her team have encapsulated for over 30,000 mommies. Juliane has quickly become the placenta encapsulation specialist to the stars, including celebrities and influencers like Kourtney Kardashian, Vanessa Hudgens, Chrissy Teigen, and many, many more noted in the notes. Juliane is considered an expert of placenta encapsulation and has been sharing her knowledge on TV, radio, podcasts, articles, and blogs. In addition to spreading her experience and knowledge of placenta encapsulation, she has teamed up with organizations such as the Blue Dot Project to educate the public on important topics such as postpartum depression. She has also encapsulated my placenta, which is very dear in my heart. I hope you enjoy this chat as much as I did. Hi, Juliane. How are you? Welcome to You the Boss podcast.
Hey, girl. Thanks so much for having me on. I am doing good. It's a little chaotic this morning, all 4 kids, getting everybody off to school and getting to work on time. It seems like all
4
hell kind
kids.
of wants to. Yes, so I have a 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and then my baby turns 2 tomorrow, actually. So yeah, it's
September
a circus.
baby.
Yeah, so it's a circus.
Yes,
so much
I can imagine. Yeah, so thank you for coming on. We like to dive right in, which you've kind of already done. You've told us you have 4 kids, which is amazing. So you're obviously a superhero. So give us a little bit of information about you, kind of what you do and how you got to doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Juliane Corona, and I am the actual founder and owner of Mommy Made Encapsulation. We are the largest placenta encapsulation company in the world, and really, I have built this brand and this business from the ground up. I've been encapsulating placentas for now, gosh, my daughter's 8.5, so almost 9 years now. I've been doing this, and we've done over 35,000 encapsulations, but how it all got started really was like I had battled with a drug addiction. I was addicted to heroin for a couple of years, and I had went into a drug rehabilitation program and got clean and sober. And after I got out of that program is when I actually met my husband, and we kind of got pregnant like straight away. Like I think maybe like 6 months after me being in a relationship with him. And it was still like so fresh, like coming out of that life. drug addiction, that I just didn't like want to like have it like fall back into any like old habits or old patterns. And dealing with depression, I was like I said, I just come out of like depression and drugs and everything. So I really just wanted to find like a natural way to combat like postpartum depression. Um, and postpartum anxieties. I didn't want to like rely on pharmaceutical medications or anything like that. So I stumbled across placenta, or people eating their placenta. And I just thought, oh, that's gross. Like, I couldn't just eat my placenta. Like, I don't care like what the benefits are. Like, I can't. And I remember seeing that Kim Kardashian had hers put into capsules. And I was like, well, if it was like in some kind of flavored capsule like that, like, I mean, it just doesn't look gross. It doesn't taste gross. Like, to me, that made sense. And that's really the birth of how everything came to be, was really be surrounding my pregnancy and wanting to find like an alternative to pharmaceutical medications.
Okay. Wow. First of all.
Lots to unpack.
So, like we spoke a little bit, I am one of 35,000 of
Yeah.
placentas that have been encapsulated. So thank you.
Yes. Thank
I
you.
think it's amazing work what you do, just from the little bit you've just displayed, because coming out of anything in general is a superpower. So to say, you went into rehabilitation and you didn't want to depend on the pharmaceutical industry, and just you created the space, right, that you needed in that time, and now you get to do that work for so many people, and I think that is incredible.
Yeah.
And I do want to preface this by saying, I hadn't actually given you this review, so this is like a live thing for me to say, but when my husband and I started trying for me to get pregnant, I kept saying to him, I know that I'll be able to give birth. Like, my body is going to do what it needs to do. And I know that if I need medical intervention, again, my body's going to provide for me. So not that I wasn't afraid, because you can always be afraid of something you've never done before,
Unknown.
but I
Yeah.
was more concerned about postpartum.
Yeah.
And I'm still in the thick of it. I'm still, only almost 4 months postpartum, but I've been taking my placenta pills, and I know on the day that I didn't take them in the morning, like, I can tell energy wise, I can tell just physically. I'm like, I know when I didn't take them that morning. And that's because of you, because I ran across your page on Instagram, and like,
Well, honestly,
it was like,
one of the, I mean, I know too, because I've encapsulated all four of my placentas, but people are like, well, obviously you're going to say this because this is what you do. This is your business. And the story that I like to tell people is like, well, I actually encapsulated my first placenta before I gave birth. And I did it for a relative. She was a mom of three, and this was her fourth baby. And I was like, okay, if Eve notices a difference, like, full steam ahead. But if Eve is like, honestly, like, it's just fake, like, I don't feel any different, I'm like, what's the point of doing this, or what's the point of going forward if it's like the products and the services that you sell or that you offer to people, like, if they're not legitimate, like, it's not going to go far. So I was like, there's no point in having to go any further if she doesn't like feel any difference. And I remember like texting her like day 3 after she had the baby and I did her placenta, and I'm like, hey, like, do you notice anything? And she's like, honestly, like, no, not right now. Like, I haven't really like felt like any different or anything. And I just like literally was like crushed. I was like, oh, what a bummer.
mm,
And then like I would say like 4 or 5 days after that, I just get like a random message from her, and she's like, oh my God, like, they're working. Like, I've noticed that I haven't been as hormonal, I haven't been as bitchy. Like, this is the first baby I've been able to breastfeed. Like, I'm in such a good mood. I have energy.
wow.
Like, this is amazing. And I was like, oh, okay, like, let's do this. Like, there's the stamp of approval that like I needed. And it was just like mom after mom and testimony after testimony I would get back. It was just like more proof, like, to me and to everybody else. I'm like, I've always been like, I've never paid for anybody to use my services or to say anything about, placenta encapsulation. It's always been word of mouth, because I always believe like that's the strongest form of, of letting people know that it's what the benefits are. I let everybody, all the moms speak for themselves.
You know, so I love that. I love that you can literally say, no, I'm just letting it speak for itself because I distinctly remember. So, this is my first child. And I distinctly remember being in the hospital, and all of my nurses were amazing because I was there. I got induced, and then I was there for like 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
So, one of my nurses in the very beginning, when they were asking, like, because I mentioned, I'm like, yeah, we have a cooler. I want to take my placenta home, etc. And it was like very much in passing, but it was also very dismissive of being like, yeah, there hasn't been enough research. And that was kind of like the statement.
Mhm.
And, I remember thinking to myself, first of all, I don't even believe that there hasn't been much research. I think it just hasn't been a way for big pharma to monetize it in some fashion or another. But I remember thinking to myself, I know in my heart that this is right for me. I'm the first one of my friends to have their placenta encapsulated. I'm the first one of my friends to kind of go in that direction, go a little bit more holistic and that kind of a thing. And it's amazing to say that from that one time for you, you've created this brand and this business and this life-changing timeline basically that is helping women so much because I have to tell you, like, I don't have anything to compare it to as far as like having given birth before and not having my placenta encapsulated, but I'm not really sure I want that experience because you know having it encapsulated now, I'm like, you know what? I've heard what I've heard, and I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good with
Yeah.
this process.
And the
So I
thing
do
is,
want to ask. Go
yeah.
ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying, well, and the thing is, like, there's like not enough research really, like one way or the other. And the reason why that is because like, well, big pharma is using placentas. There's lots of pharmaceutical companies. There's one that's called MyMedics, and I ran into one of their sales or one of the pharmaceutical reps in the hospital one time because I had my cooler, and he was like, "Hey, like, what is that cooler for?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm here to pick up a placenta from my mom." He's like, "What do you do with them?" I was like, "Oh, I encapsulate." He's like, "Oh, my company buys placentas too." I was like, "Well, I don't buy placentas, but what do you mean?" And he's like, "Oh, I work for a pharmaceutical company called MyMedics. We buy the placentas from the hospitals, and we use the stem cells and the tissue for the medical products." And I like went to I'm like Googling like, what is it? And sure enough, like it's in, they have like injectables, they have a mesh, they have like, I mean, there's all different kinds. They have filler now that they use the stem cells in their filler, and it basically like rejuvenates and like like lasts longer than like regular collagen filler. So it's in so many different things, and they just name it like they use the scientific name, the amnion and chorion membranes. So by just the regular uneducated ear on what that is, they're like, I don't know what, okay, sure, whatever, membranes, but it's the placenta, it's the placental tissue. And I'm like, there's wouldn't be a multi-billion-dollar industry based on a placebo effect. Like there's actual real benefits, but they're never going to like do enough research to be like, yes, because then moms would wisen up and they would want to keep their placentas, and then they'd be out billions and billions of dollars. So that is
Yeah,
why.
and
Yeah.
it is incredible. It's incredible to hear that because again, one of my husband and I's best friend, he's like an actual scientist. I don't know what he does for work per se with his skill, but I know he is a scientist. And when it was very early on in my pregnancy, when I said to him, I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna get my placenta encapsulated. And that was his like immediate like, oh, well, I'm not sure there's been enough research, etc. And still, even then, I remember thinking to myself, there has been, I just know that there has been plenty of research, and it's not a way that they would want to promote that. And in the same way, that they're not going to necessarily tell you in the hospital, like, go home and take this amount of vitamin D and it's going
Right.
to do these effects for you. So it makes sense on that perspective. But again, because of what you're doing and just the vision that it's created for so many women, like I see the different women getting their placentas encapsulated. I've had different moms say to me, like, I think that's amazing. I didn't even know this was a thing. Or I ended up not doing it because it was really late, like that kind of thing. And a lot of people, just from like my small little portion of the world, they're like, oh, yeah, I definitely want to do this in the future, or I want to recommend it and that kind of thing. I think it's incredible to be able to have this option
Yeah.
now. And so what's something that maybe it might not be something that sticks out. You might have to like think about it for a second, but what was something that was pivotal for you other than that initial conversation? Would you say that kind of like maybe had you switch gears? Because I'm sure there's been a learning curve that's in some perspective or not. What are a few like moments or maybe some experiences that you kind of saw and then you were able to kind of like overcome?
So there's been a few things like in business that like pivotal moments for me. And I know I could exactly. And there's been a few. One of them, and it kind of like goes hand in hand, was like this getting really serious about my life. Me and my husband like deciding, okay, like let's take our lives seriously, because we were like we had like the kids were around, and it was just we were just trying hard to struggling between like our relationship, the kid relationship with our children, and then I was running the business. So it really started with me and him deciding like, okay, like let's put the kids in daycare and preschool. And that was like the first step. And at the time, like it's not like I was making like a ton of money. Like that was a stretch, you know? And to run a business, like what people don't realize too is that like it takes money to make money. So
Mm-hmm.
like it's not like you just get all this money and you keep it. Like it's a constant flow. And that was another thing that I feel like I really had to overcome, was this like scarcity mentality. Like I came from a home where like it was like there'd be extreme highs, like tons of money coming in, and then extreme like lows, like a lot of um drought. And that up and down and that I guess uncertainty created like this scarcity mentality for me that I had to overcome in running a business. Like I had to stop viewing money as this like limited source, and I had to start viewing it as like a constant like current that is coming and going, and it's constantly flowing. And as soon as I changed my perspective on that, like it became easier for me to be so controlling with money. Like in the beginning, like I would be like, I just only need to buy 2 paper towel rolls. That's it. I'm good. 2 paper towel rolls. My husband looked at me and he's like, it's not like you're gonna ever not need paper towel rolls. Just buy the bulk. And I'm like, no, 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 it's fine. Like, I'm just gonna get the two. And he's like, buy the bulk. And now, now I'm like, okay, let's get the like 75 pack. Like, let's get the, so it changed my
Mm-hmm.
mentality because I was so controlled by money, and like how, and the relationship that I had with money really affected my relationship with those around me. But then I also remember the first time hiring people, and that was really scary. I remember actually listening to a podcast, and this girl was like, look, you need to hire before you're ready to hire. And that was like so key and so pivotal, because I was doing everything, the placenta encapsulations, the messaging the people, the picking up the placenta, delivering the pills, like every aspect of the business I was doing, and I had no help. So it came to a point where I was like, hey, I need to hire. And she basically said, like, if you can't hack it in 30 to 45 days, like you can't make enough income to support those people that you're hiring, then then you just let them go. Like it's like it's not a big deal. Like, okay, like it didn't work. I need to like reevaluate. Like that's the scariest thing that could possibly happen, is like it doesn't work. So once I started hiring people, then it was like my time freed up to really like take the business to bigger and new heights. And I wasn't so bogged down with like the day-to-day stuff like that anybody could do if they were trained right. So that was to me
Right.
like some of the pivotal moments, and that happened in 2019. Yeah. And that next year was like the biggest year that I had done since I had been open in 2016.
Wow. So there's a couple things that I want to touch on here.
Mhm.
And first things first is the relatability of money and the mindset around money. I think it's especially in this day and age. with social media. Everyone thinks that you roll over, you have this skill, bam, you're making a ton of money. And in some cases, it's true. Sometimes you get that first initial like you mentioned before, the placebo effect, and you're making a ton of money as a business owner, and then you go through some time of drought. And I think a lot of that portion is a mindset, like you said. You know, you have to change your relationship with money. And it ties in as well with having to hire help, because I'm sure that you were like, this is my baby. I don't want to just hire anyone.
Yeah.
And this is like your livelihood. This is your fifth baby, in essence. Like, this
Yeah.
is my
Oh,
my
absolutely.
first baby. This is what I'm putting together, what I'm putting out into the world. Now I have to hire someone and kind of like relinquish control. And I love that you said that you had to change your mindset about it and comparing it to paper towels, because I used to tell my husband when we first met that I remember my mom always buying like the dollar store brand paper towels, and it always being
That's
like, no, you don't need a paper towel for that. Let it air dry, or just shake your hands off and like
yeah.
it'll be fine. And then I remember one day being like, I'm gonna buy the Bounty today. And I remember being so like mind blown, because the smaller pack in the supermarket was like $15. And I
Yeah.
remember being like, oh my God, I'm spending $15 on paper towels.
Yes.
And I promise you, to this day, it's been almost really, really like almost 10 years since like that initial like moment of me buying Bounty in the store.
Yes.
I was like, I am never not buying the paper towels that I want, because I'm paying for it in some fashion. I'm
Yes.
paying for it either because it rips and I have to use more of them if I buy the cheaper one, or I'm paying for it because I'm not being honest with myself and saying, I really like those paper towels. That's the
Yes.
brand I like. So
Yes. And that was
that's the
what
one that I should get.
I never want to have to like worry about those things. Like if I want the Lysol, I'm gonna get Lysol. If I want the Bounty, like we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get Bounty. And the like laundry soap, the laundry detergent, and like it's like sometimes it's like laughable to people because it's like, oh, it's just like laundry soap. But it's like, no, like I had to work to get to that point to where like it's not even a
Yeah.
thought anymore. And I said, I want to be so good one day to where we can order whatever we want off the menu whenever we want, however many times a week we want to, and it not have to affect us. And like it was little things like that, like little goals along the way that I would set that would push me there. Like at one point in time, I was like, I want Botox. Like I need to pay, like I have a goal. Like I need to get, enough money to where I can afford this or I can afford that. Or my next goal is so we can do this. And it's setting those goals for yourself that, and it can be selfish. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like money can buy you things that make you happy, and there's nothing wrong with that. So it's like setting those little goals along the way for yourself to help you like keep just pushing forward. And like that for me, like my husband's always like, you just seem like you're never satisfied. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like I'm happy, and I'm happy at whatever level, but am I ever satisfied? I'm like, I don't think you ever want me to be satisfied. Like that's not something that I'm ever going to say, because I can push myself further and further, and I want to reach my full potential.
So this is why you're on this podcast, because I absolutely 100% agree with what you just said. You know, there's nothing wrong with wanting more. And it's not that you're not happy with your present. I think it's just, sometimes outside forces, they say things like, money doesn't buy you happiness, which is true. I think the love of money, like you could love money however you want, but if you're not using it for good, or you're not happy without it,
Yes,
essentially, then
right.
you're
You're
not
not
going
gonna
to
be
be
happy
happy
with
with
it.
it.
Hmm.
And it buys you choices, whether it's like you said, Botox, it's the brand name paper towels, or just different choices that you're able to make. It's so relevant to say that I don't want to I don't want to be satisfied, because it's kind of like a growing tomato. You want to stay green, because if you stay green, that means you're still growing, you're still learning, you're still, pushing forward. You're never ripe. Once you're ripe, the only place to go from there is to rot, is to go down. So if you are satisfied in that sense, or you're not looking to push forward, looking to evolve, then
You're
you
done.
kind of die in the vine. Like that's basically
Yep.
the place. So how do you stay, because I know your industry is so unique. So this is like an interesting question. I'm excited to see you kind of go through this answer, but how do you stay current with different things? Like, are there different like certifications that you need to do, or even like your employees, your business? Like, how do you stay current and not necessarily trends, but so much as being true to the initial part of your brand?
There's like so much so layered. With business, I have learned that I can't be the expert in all fields. And so I have learned that I need to hire the experts who can keep me current with stuff like dealing with the employees, with taxes, with, I mean, you name it, like any of that type of stuff. Now I'm like, I know enough to get by. Like I have a degree in business, so I know enough, but I'm not the expert. I can do placentas, obviously, right? And we stay certified to stay up to date, current and all that. But like that is still like, it's not my passion. So my passion and staying up to and current is like social media. Like my background is also in marketing. So I love like just constantly learning. Like I'm always on YouTube and I'm always taking people's classes and courses and seeing what people have to say because social media changes constantly. And it's like an ever evolving like Rubik's cube that you're constantly having to try to like play around with and like figure out. Staying true and current with like the trends, but also like you said, staying true to who I have been since the beginning. And it's like there's little things that I've always stayed true, like the branding and the color and making sure like the cleanliness of our look and it's always been since the beginning, but I just how I evolve it. Like I'll add like recently we just added like little like stickers. Like, people are you putting little stickers on their water bottles. So I added like stickers. I started looking into straw toppers, like just little things that's like current with the trends, but still like it's very much us. And when picking the stickers, like, oh my gosh, I seriously have to like show you the examples. I came up with one that I was like, this is the sticker. It basically was like a little like image of me, a caricature of me. And my husband was like, that's ugly. It was seriously, so I can't, like, that's not Mommy Made. Like, I'm sorry. He's like, it's just not. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you need to go back to the drawing board with that. So I went back to the drawing board. I found somebody else to do it. And like, and then she was there. She was birthed. She looks like a little Bratz doll. And I was like, yes, that is very much Mommy Made. So like it will take the current trends and things that people are using and doing, and we'll somehow like apply it to the business. We also did crock charms at one point, like just making it fun, but yeah, staying current. I'm definitely always trying to read and research. Like luckily, like we have been noticed by Meta and by the Metagogs. And they like invite me all the time to like test out new products or new platforms or just like a different way of like running ads. So I've been kind of like on the forefront of some of the things that they're putting out there. Like, thank God for that. So yeah, like we're constantly learning and evolving and trying, and look, sometimes we're trying and failing. Sometimes we're trying, like there was one time, oh my God, I remember this. It was a perfect example. Do you remember that trend that was happening on like Instagram where like a celebrity would post with like all of these like handbags and like, if you follow all these accounts I'm following, you could win all 13 of these Chanel handbags. We got asked to do one of those giveaways and I didn't know like any different. So I'm like, yeah, like that would be cool. I mean, we'd get like some notice, like we would get more followers, more business. And I paid, I don't remember how much money, but it was not a cheap amount. And we got like hella followers from it, but it was like they weren't interested in your business. We got zero business from it. And then in fact, it ended up having like the reverse effect. And this was like 4 years ago. It basically like triggered the algorithm to shadow ban us because like the algorithm monitors you, right? Like it shows basically how like your ebbs and flows, but you're constantly like trending upwards, right? If you have a huge spike all of a sudden, like it triggers it, because they don't want fake accounts. They don't want people who are like buying followers or trying to like, jump ahead in line, so to say. So it flags you and it like restricts your actual like organic growth. And at the time, like I was organically like growing and like things were happening. And so that was like one of the things that I thought was going to be really great, but was a fail. But now I know, right? And now I've never done that since. And now we're back. We caught our stride again, and we're like, it's trending upwards, constantly is doing this. So, but how would I have ever known that? Like without
Right.
talking. I mean, luckily one of my other business friends, she reached out to me and she's like, oh my God, I did that same thing you did. And she's like, it was the worst thing I could have done. And I was like, oh my God, don't tell me this. But yeah, we survived. We survived.
Yeah.
But it's like little things that, I mean, you're gonna try things that are gonna work, and you're gonna try things that aren't, you know? And I think the best thing is
And
to
that
be
is the
those fails.
that is the nature of owning a business in that regard. I think it's so brave to own a business, especially in this day and age, because like it's I used to when I was in college, because I went to school for international business. So I took different courses that like taught things about how they handle business overseas and how Americans do business and things like that. And I remember one of the statistics was like basically like 99% of restaurants fail within the first 5 years.
Yeah.
And then after that 5 year mark, it's actually the first like 2 years.
It's
And then
like
after 5 years is
yeah.
when they start to make money. And then the sixth and seventh year is like everyone else that made it through, a lot of them bottom out basically.
Yeah.
So I think it's very brave to own a restaurant or a business at all, because you have to deal with those numbers. You have to deal with that trial and error. Like literally everything you do fluctuate your growth. And even now with social media, if you're working against the algorithm, you're working against other people who might be doing what you're doing. And then you're also working against people who are just, unfortunately they're bored and they want to like
Troll.
comment different things or report pages and etc. And you're like,
Yeah.
come
And
on,
that's
man, leave me
fine. That's
alone. I'm just
happened to
trying to
us.
change the world.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure that it has happened because again, the people are just they have a little bit too much time on their hands to like,
They're bored.
yeah. So I do want to again say thank you. I feel like I've been thanking you the whole time. Like this is personal to me, right? It's personal to me to say that, first of all, that I'm speaking with you, and then that you've been able to do the work that you're doing, and that it's also impacted my own, situation of being postpartum, of the energy, any kind of like all of that kind of thing. So I want to give you kind of the floor and say, what advice would you give to someone who, in two avenues, someone who might be wanting to start to kind of do what you do or be in that field? And what kind of advice would you give someone who maybe they have like one foot in, one foot out about getting their placenta encapsulated, about wanting to take that journey for themselves after they give birth?
Well, honestly, like the best business advice I have, and it can be applied to any business that anybody is ever wanting to start, is like nobody's going to believe in you more than you're going to believe in yourself. So listening to outside sources or forces is not ideal. Like if you know in your heart and you believe in yourself and what you are capable of, you have to invest in yourself, and you have to put on your blinders. You have to put your earplugs in. Like you can't listen and don't take no for an answer. To me, that has always been like my guiding. And sometimes it was almost like when the opposition was too much, it was like, oh, this is because I'm on the right path. Like this is why like I'm supposed to be doing this, because the opposition is so big. There's something really great on the other side. And for somebody that was on the fence about placenta encapsulation, like I always just said, like for me personally, I looked at the benefits that it said it had. And at the time it was like supposed benefits, because I had never done it, I'd never encapsulated for anybody. And to me, like it just made sense. And I was like, how could something that's already in my body tailor-made for me, monitoring my baby for the last 9 months, be harmful to put right back into my body, right where it just came from. Like, I only saw there being a potential upside. Like, I didn't see a downside to it. And you got to do like what you feel is right for yourself. Like, your husband's not having the baby, your parents aren't having the baby, your doctor's not having the baby. It's you. And if you feel like it's something right for you, like, you have to take care of yourself. You have to make yourself a priority, because if you don't make yourself a priority, everything else around you, including your baby, if you have other kids, your relationship with your husband, is going to start to dwindle. And the best example I like to use is like when you're in an airplane, right? And they always tell you, like, if you're with a child, the airplane starts to go down, heaven forbid, you're supposed to put your air mask on first. You have to take care of yourself first before you take care of your child. So you have to take care of yourself first and foremost, and make yourself and your recovery a priority before your baby, before your husband, before your friends, before anybody else. Because if you don't make yourself that priority, like, everything else is going to start to fall to the wayside.
Wow, that is really excellent advice, actually, because especially as a new mom, it's in some ways it's a little bit intimidating because I came into like becoming a mom, and I think all of my mom friends, or most of them, have more than one, whether
Yeah.
it's two or more, they have more than one child. So you see women be so selfless. You see them give and they pour sometimes from an empty cup, and so coming in and wanting to choose myself, wanting to say, you know what, I need to take care of me before I can take care of this baby, because if I can't take care of the baby, then there's no me and there's no baby. So it's like,
What's the point?
and it's very interesting to kind of have set myself apart in that way,
Yeah.
because if again, I can't pour from an empty cup, and I felt that way before I became a mom, where I was like, you can't pour from an empty cup, you can't pour from an empty cup. And even more so now as a mom,
Yeah.
you still make those sacrifices. There's still things that need to get done, and how that goes. But I think one of the best things that I've done for myself is to have my placenta encapsulated, is to give myself back like that little gift. Like, that's the thing that, I breastfeed. So I know the difference from when I started taking my pills, because I started taking them probably at like after 7 weeks postpartum, which was a little bit later than I had planned. But I know the difference between then and where my milk production was even. Um, and it's something that you don't, if you don't do it, then you're not going to know for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you know this, but you can, till you're blue in the face, you can tell
Tell people.
someone and explain to someone. But if you don't do it yourself, you're not even going to, I mean, honestly, I at first was like, well, I mean, I have nothing to lose to do it. And
Right.
now I'm like, anyone, I'm literally like, here, this is the page you need to follow. You need to talk to her. Like, this is the route you need to go, because it's just so incredible to see the difference in myself in those initial first 6 or 7 weeks, and then post. Now it's been 16 weeks postpartum, and I can definitely tell the difference.
Yeah.
So
That's 180 that happens.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So looking back a little bit, is there anything up until this point, which I know you already mentioned kind of on a social media perspective, something that you would have changed or maybe done differently? Looking back, is there anything that you would have changed in this process, and how far you've come, and things that you might have experienced? Like, is there something that you would have done different? And if so, what would that be?
100%. We, in the beginning, I feel like we trusted so many people, because I feel like I'm so transparent and I am a trustworthy person. Like, what you see is what you get, like, through and through. Like, and there's days where I have my off days, like it shows, like, I wear it on my sleeve and there's no secret, so it's like who I am is who you get. It's who I am. There was people that were introduced into the business, as like experts in certain fields, like, CPAs or attorneys or someone who can help safeguard your business by opening up a bunch of LLCs or just things that could sound really good. And I didn't always do my homework. I never asked for referrals. I didn't ask for like who their clients are. I didn't ask like nothing. Or like their certifications or experience. Like I just, in this day and age, I'm like, who is gonna lie about stuff like that, you know?
Why would
So
somebody do that?
right. So I think that's been something like that's been a big learning curve and something that I wish I would have done earlier on. And something I definitely do now is I will triple check everything, triple check prices, triple check, their background, triple check who their customers are, who their clients are, their reviews. Like I am doing my homework to make sure that the people that we're using for whatever it is they're on the up and up and they're not trying to take advantage. So that 100%, I would have done so differently back then.
Yeah, and it's you live and you learn in that perspective. Like again, you were saying things. I'm like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Like I studied international business in college, but like as well as anyone else that you learn most when you're outside of the classroom, essentially. You learn in the doing. So I wouldn't have even thought of necessarily like CPAs or people, those different kinds of things coming up because in my opinion, you're doing such work that is so important for women's health. And for me to even think on a business perspective that somebody would be trying to take advantage of what you do, I'm like, well, of course, because she's in a vulnerable place in that sense. If she thinks she's doing the best that she can with what she has, like tricking her would make sense for someone who's trying to take advantage. So
on both ends, like it happens when you're starting out and people are like, oh, this person doesn't know anything, they don't have anything, like I can take advantage of their spot that they're vulnerable in because they don't have a lot of resources. But it ramps up. Like the more you have and the more that you're doing, the more people want to take advantage. And it could be as little as employees taking advantage of time. It could be as big as somebody trying to like literally like take over your business or like sign your business over to them. So like always reading through on your contracts, always making sure like being on the up and up with everybody and everything. Like people just, it's unfortunate. And it's not like you need to be like a hound and making sure and cutting through and be like paranoid, but just if you do your due diligence in the beginning, like you're not really going to have to worry about who you're hiring, who's working on your books, like anything like that, like who's getting your sources, who's getting your materials, who's getting all that stuff. Like you won't have to worry about that if you do enough of your due diligence in the beginning before bringing on that person to do whatever it is for you. Right. I mean, I'm talking about even cleaning your house, like whatever, cleaning your cars. Like
yeah, somebody's coming in to be in your space and to do things. Like you want to make sure that you don't know someone's malicious intent. So you do want to make sure that in all things that you're covering your bases, that you feel good with your decision, that it's not a rush decision or an impulsive decision.
Like, yeah, exactly. Because just because you might have more doesn't mean you need to pay more. You know, like that's a lesson that we've been learning recently.
Well, that's great. Again, you're still learning. You've been doing this for a while and you're still in a learning place. And I think that's
still the
great.
Green tomato.
Yes, the green tomato. So what are some misconceptions you would say that maybe you had or the industry might have as far as like what you do and the value that you bring to women? What would you say some of those misconceptions are?
Some of the biggest ones I get are the safety of it. And this has like, I think basically because there's women that do eat their placenta raw or eat it like in a smoothie, or do different forms of ingesting it. And eating your placenta, it's kind of like meat. Like you can't just go and eat raw chicken, or you can't just go and steam like, or not steam, you can't just go and like dehydrate raw chicken and grind it up and put it into like powder. Like it's not going to be safe for you to eat. There's lots of bacteria and stuff that lives on that raw meat, right? It's the same concept with your placenta. Like placentas are going to have bacteria. Like everything in this world has bacteria on it, right? So bacteria, viruses, infections, STDs, like anything like that is fine because of the process that we use. And there's a big misconception that like it's not. Even amongst the like physicians and their clinicians and nurses and stuff, like there's just not a lot of information out there. Like they just think that people are just either eating it raw or they don't really understand like the process that we use and they don't care to educate themselves on it. So there's a lot of misinformation out there about that. But like our process is the safest one out there. Like I said, we've been doing this almost 9 years. Nothing bad or negative has ever happened to mom or her baby with the process that we use. And the other big misconception I think out there is like the cost. I think people think that they're going to cost a lot of money when really it doesn't, or they think it should cost a lot lower than it does. But I mean, the value of everything that we put into it, like the placentas literally like fly across the nation overnight and end up in our labs the next morning. Like we pray for priority shipping. Like we are nationally contracted with UPS Healthcare. And it's the fastest and highest priority shipping that's available. So, I mean, and that costs money. But we do offer payment plans for women because I am such a firm believer in this and I just never want money to be an issue and a reason why somebody doesn't do this. So we can customize payment plans around any budget, really. So if somebody's like, I can put down $20 a month. Okay, girl, like we will take your $20 a month. We will get this thing paid off. Like luckily the placenta can stay in a freezer for a year or a deep freezer for 2 years. So there's time. It's not like it's there's lots of time to work with and we can work with any budget. So that to me was like another big misconception. People either think it costs like thousands of dollars or it should cost like $100.
Yeah, I think that's with anything, it's all on the value that you see in it. And I was actually surprised that it didn't cost as much
Yeah.
because I was worried, that is something you worry about. You're about to be a mom and you're already spending money in 80 different directions, right? And so to find out that it was the price that it was and that I was not only able to afford it, but also able to, if I needed to, work through some kind of a plan and be able to have my placenta be in good hands. I think that is so, again, another way to add value to what it is that you do for women.
Yeah.
And so where can we find you? Where can the listeners find you? Where can they, reach out to you?
Yeah, so Instagram is Mommy Made Encapsulation, and the website is mommymadeencapsulation.com.
Wow. So we're putting that in the show notes for sure for anyone that is interested. And I will definitely, make sure to tag you and anything that we post in reference to this episode online because I want people to find you. I want people to get educated. I want people to feel confident in their journey of becoming a mom or if they've already had children and this is just something that they want to venture into. I really want them to find you and just be able to have that same positive experience that so many women, including myself, have had. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us today and taking time out of your amazing schedule to meet with us here on You the Boss.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.